The lunar night stretched endlessly beyond the reinforced windows of Outpost Gamma 7, its eternal darkness broken only by the soft blue glow of Earth hanging in the black sky. Marcus Chen sat hunched over his workbench, his calloused hands carefully manipulating the delicate components of yet another impossible repair job. The other engineers called him a miracle worker, but Marcus preferred to think of himself as simply stubborn. "Come on, you beautiful nightmare," he muttered, connecting a modified quantum sensor to what had once been a standard radio array. The setup looked bizarre. Earth technology merged with components he'd salvaged from strange debris found in the lunar dust. His superiors had long since stopped questioning his methods, especially after his modifications had doubled the range of their deep space communications. The sensor array hummed to life, its hybrid circuits pulsing with an otherworldly gleam. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. 3 months of work, and finally. An alarm shattered the silence. Not the usual warning systems, but something deeper, more primitive. The quantum sensor was screaming. Marcus's eyes snapped to his monitors. The readings made no sense. A massive energy signature, unlike anything in their database, was rapidly approaching the lunar surface, and it was aimed directly at the outpost. "Control, this is Chen at Gamma 7, he called over the comm. "Are you seeing this?" Static answered. The quantum disruption was overwhelming their communications. The ceiling trembled as something massive passed overhead. Marcus ran to the window just in time to see a streak of silver tear across the lunar sky, trailing plasma and debris. The object, clearly some kind of spacecraft, crashed into the crater 2 kilometers from the outpost, sending up a plume of moon dust that sparkled in the starlight. Most people would have called for backup. Most people would have waited for orders. But Marcus Chen had never been most people. He was already sealing his suit before the dust began to settle. The lunar rover ate up the distance quickly, its modified engine another of Marcus's improvements. As he approached the crash site, the true scale of the vessel became clear. It was elegant, almost organic in design, its silver hull decorated with swirling patterns that seemed to shift in the Earthlight, and it was definitely not human. "Well," Marcus breathed, "this is going to be interesting." He detected no radiation leaks, but his instruments were going haywire around the ship's hull. Whatever technology they were using, it was far beyond anything he'd ever encountered. The vessel's side bore damage from what looked like weapons fire. This was no accident. A hatch suddenly burst open in the ship's side, expelling a cloud of strange vapor. 3 figures emerged, their environmental suits sleek and advanced compared to his bulky lunar gear. They moved with the strange grace of those adapted to lower gravity, but there was an urgency to their movements that spoke of desperation. The tallest of the 3 noticed him first. It raised what was unmistakably a weapon. Marcus raised his hands slowly. "Easy there," he said, broadcasting on all frequencies. "I'm here to help." The figure cocked its head, then spoke. The words that came through his comm were clearly processed through some kind of translator. "You are human." "Last time I checked. Name's Marcus Chen, engineer at Lunar Outpost Gamma 7. Looks like you could use some assistance with your ship." The 3 aliens conferred quickly in their own language, their movements becoming more agitated. Finally, the tall one turned back to Marcus. "We are diplomats of the Stellar Accord. Our mission is vital to the survival of countless civilizations, but we were ambushed. Our quantum drive is critically damaged. Without repairs, the alien's voice carried the weight of unspoken consequences." Marcus studied the ship's hull, his mind already racing through possibilities. "Quantum drive? I might be able to help with that. I've been experimenting with some similar principles in my communication array." The shortest alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. No offense intended, but human technology is far too primitive to. "Try me," Marcus interrupted, a familiar gleam in his eye. "You'd be surprised what we primitives can do when we put our minds to it." The tall one, who introduced themselves as Ambassador Zara, seemed to consider him carefully. We have no choice. The Shadowclaw Empire's forces will not be far behind, and if they capture us, the information we carry will doom the free worlds. Marcus nodded, already pulling tools from his rover. Then we better get to work. Tell me everything you can about how this drive functions. As the ambassadors began explaining their technology, Marcus felt that familiar excitement building in his chest. This was what he lived for, the challenge of the impossible, the chance to push beyond known limits. And somehow, he knew that this chance encounter would change not just his life, but the fate of humanity itself. What he didn't know was just how right he was, or that the next few hours would test everything he thought he knew about physics, technology, and the true potential of the human mind. The interior of the alien vessel hummed with failing systems, status displays flickering in colors Marcus had never seen before. Ambassador Zara led him to the quantum drive chamber, their environmental suits creating an odd echo in the ship's confined space. The other two diplomats, introduced as Nix and Ven, followed closely, their anxiety palpable even through their sealed suits. The quantum drive itself was beautiful in its complexity, a crystalline structure suspended in a field of shifting energy, now cracked and unstable. Marcus whistled low at the sight. Your people built this, it's incredible. The finest achievement of Accord engineering, Nix said, pride mixing with concern in their translated voice. But the Shadowclaw weapons, they gestured at the fractures spreading through the crystal matrix. Marcus approached the drive, his modified sensors taking readings that made absolutely no sense. You're manipulating quantum fields at a macro scale, he said, more to himself than the others, creating localized space-time distortions for propulsion. We theorized about it, but the energy requirements... Ven made that laughing sound again. You understand the principles. I thought human physics was still debating the basics of quantum mechanics. Oh, we debate everything, Marcus replied absently, his mind already racing through possibilities. It's kind of our thing, but sometimes the best solutions come from ignoring what everyone says is impossible. He pulled open his toolkit, laying out both standard equipment and his own custom-built devices. Ambassador Zara stepped forward. We have perhaps 3 hours before the Shadowclaw forces track us here. Without the quantum drive, we cannot reach the Accord's sanctuary, and the defense plans we carry will be lost. Marcus nodded, studying the crystalline structure. The main problem isn't the physical damage, it's the quantum field instability. You're losing coherence. He paused, an idea forming. What if we didn't try to fix it the normal way? What do you mean? Nix asked. Marcus grabbed his tablet, quickly sketching out calculations. Your technology tries to maintain perfect quantum coherence, right? But what if instead we use the uncertainty principle to our advantage? His fingers flew across the screen. We could create a controlled cascade of quantum fluctuations using the crystal fractures as waveguides. That's insane, Ven interrupted. The power feedback alone would normally tear the ship apart, yes, Marcus agreed. But not if we modulate it through a phase-shifted electromagnetic field. He gestured to his modified tools. I've been experimenting with something similar in my communications array, just on a much smaller scale. The ambassadors exchanged glances. You want to repair a quantum drive by breaking physics even more? Zara asked carefully. Marcus grinned behind his faceplate. Sometimes you have to break things to fix them. Trust me, this will either work brilliantly or fail spectacularly, but either way, it'll be interesting. Over the next 2 hours, Marcus worked with an intensity that surprised even himself. He connected his hybrid equipment to the alien systems, using his communication array's quantum sensors in ways their designers had never imagined. The ambassadors helped where they could, but mostly watched in fascination as this human engineer casually rewrote their understanding of what was possible. The crystal matrix is accepting the new field harmonics, Nix observed, checking their displays. But the power curves are completely chaotic. That's the point, Marcus said, making another adjustment. We're not trying to force order. We're surfing the chaos. He pointed to the spreading fractures in the crystal. See how the quantum fluctuations are actually stabilizing the damage. It's like using a controlled burn to fight a forest fire. A sudden alarm blared through the ship. Ven rushed to a sensor panel. Shattered claw vessels detected at the edge of the system. Multiple signatures approaching fast. Marcus didn't look up from his work. How long? 40 minutes, perhaps less. Then it's time to test our theory. Marcus connected the final circuits, watching as new patterns of energy began flowing through the crystal matrix. The quantum field rippled and twisted, but instead of fighting the instabilities, it moved with them, creating a new kind of equilibrium. The drive chamber filled with a sound like singing crystal, and the status displays shifted from red to green. Marcus held his breath, watching the readings stabilize. "It's working," Zara said in disbelief. "The quantum field is stable. Different from normal, but stable. How did you know this would work?" Marcus shrugged. "I didn't. But sometimes the best solutions come from embracing imperfection rather than fighting it. Humanity's learned that lesson the hard way." "You've done more than repair our drive," Nick said slowly. "You've created an entirely new way of manipulating quantum fields. This could revolutionize Accord technology." Before Marcus could respond, another alarm sounded. Ven's voice was urgent. 3 Shadowclaw cruisers just appeared in lunar orbit. They're launching fighters. "Time to go," Marcus asked, already securing his equipment. "Wait," Zara said. "You must come with us. The Shadowclaw will know someone helped us. They'll find you." Marcus looked back at the quantum drive, its crystal heart now pulsing with a new kind of energy. He thought of his quiet life at the outpost, of all the impossible repairs still waiting on his workbench. Then he thought of what he'd just discovered, of the possibilities that lay ahead. "Well," he said, checking his suit seals, "I've always wanted to see the galaxy. Just let me grab one more thing from my rover." What Marcus didn't know was that his improvised repair hadn't just saved the ambassadors, it had inadvertently created something entirely new, something that would prove crucial in the coming conflict. The Shadowclaw Empire was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating human ingenuity. The lunar surface erupted in plasma fire as Shadowclaw fighters screamed overhead, their obsidian hulls absorbing what little light reached them. Marcus sprinted back from his rover, clutching a makeshift device cobbled together from his quantum sensor array. Behind him, the ambassador's ship hummed with the modified drive's new energy signature. "What is that?" Nix asked as Marcus dove through the airlock, the device tucked under his arm. "Insurance," Marcus replied, securing the airlock. "Trust me, we're going to need it." He glanced at the ship's tactical display, watching red dots multiply across the lunar orbit. "How good are your shields?" "Normally excellent," Ven said from the pilot's station, hands dancing across holographic controls. "But the quantum field modifications you made have actually improved them," Marcus interrupted, quickly connecting his device to a power node. "The chaotic fluctuations in the drive are creating unpredictable shield harmonics. Their targeting systems will have trouble locking on." Ambassador Zara studied him with newfound intensity. "You planned this?" "Let's say I had a hunch. Human warfare teaches you to use every advantage, especially when you're outgunned." Marcus finished his connections, then pointed to the display. "We need to stay low, use the lunar surface for cover. The dust will interfere with their sensors, hand." The ship rocked as the first volley of Shadowclaw weapons fire slashed through the vacuum. Ven's hands blurred over the controls, and the vessel leaped forward, skimming the crater's rim with impossible precision. 3 heavy cruisers in orbit, Nix reported, monitoring the tactical systems. 2 squadrons of fighters pursuing. They're trying to box us in. Marcus watched the pursuit pattern forming, his engineer's mind breaking down the problem. "Their formations are too perfect," he said suddenly. "Too calculated. Ven, can you make this ship do something completely irrational?" Ven's translator crackled with what might have been amusement. "Define irrational." Fly like a human. Unpredictable. Emotional. Do the last thing any logical combat algorithm would expect. The ship suddenly pivoted, diving into a deep crater instead of climbing for orbit. The Shadowclaw fighters, programmed for optimal pursuit patterns, scattered in confusion. Marcus's modified quantum drive sang with power, allowing maneuvers that should have torn the ship apart. They're adapting, Zora warned as the fighters regrouped. Shadowclaw AI is exceptional at learning from. Good, Marcus said, activating his jury-rigged device. That's exactly what we want. The device powered up, interfacing with the ship's modified systems. Their AI thinks in quantum calculations, right? Let's give them something to calculate. The device pulsed, sending waves of structured quantum interference rippling out through space. The Shadowclaw fighters' formation suddenly dissolved into chaos as their quantum-based targeting systems tried to compensate for fluctuations that shouldn't exist. Brilliant, Nyx breathed, watching the sensors. You're using the quantum uncertainty we created in the drive to generate false targeting data. Their systems can't distinguish real space-time distortions from our interference. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes the best way to fight superior technology is to make it overthink the problem. Now, while they're confused, Ven needed no further prompting. The ship shot upward, riding the electromagnetic waves of a solar wind stream that Marcus's sensors had detected. The Shadowclaw vessels, their quantum systems still struggling with the interference, couldn't match the precise course corrections needed to follow. But their reprieve was short-lived. The orbital cruisers opened fire, filling space with a web of energy weapons. One blast clipped their shield, sending cascading warnings through the ship's systems. The main cruiser is positioning for a killing shot, Nyx reported tensely. Their weapons are too powerful for our shields, even with the modifications. Marcus studied the tactical display, noting how the cruisers maintained perfect spacing for optimal firing solutions. They're still thinking like machines, he muttered. Then louder, Ven, I need you to aim straight for the lead cruiser. That's suicide, Zara protested. They expect us to run, Marcus explained quickly. Their tactical systems are calibrated for rational behavior. But humans, he grinned, we're really good at being irrational when we need to be. Understanding dawned in Ven's posture. Without warning, they drove the ship directly at the massive Shadowclaw cruiser. The enemy vessel, its AI confronted with a scenario outside its parameters, hesitated for crucial seconds. Its supporting ships, trying to maintain their perfect formation, actually collided with each other as they attempted to adjust. Now, Marcus shouted, full power to the quantum drive. The modified drive responded instantly, wrapping their small ship in a bubble of distorted space-time. They shot through a gap in the cruiser's formation that shouldn't have existed, the quantum interference from Marcus's device making them nearly invisible to the enemy's sensors. As they accelerated away from the moon, Nyx checked their pursuit. The Shadowclaw ships, they're not following. Their quantum systems are completely confused by our wake signature. They can't plot an intercept course. They'll figure it out eventually, Marcus said, already thinking ahead. But by then we'll be long gone. Speaking of which, he turned to Zara. Where exactly are we going? The ambassador touched a control, bringing up a star chart Marcus had never seen before. The Accord Sanctuary lies beyond known space, a place hidden from both human and Shadowclaw charts. But thanks to your modifications, we might have a chance of reaching it undetected. Marcus stared at the alien constellations, reality finally sinking in. He'd just helped alien diplomats escape from a hostile force, modified advanced technology beyond its design parameters, and was now heading into uncharted space. And somehow, none of that was as troubling as the look Zora was giving him. There's something else, isn't there? He asked. Something you haven't told me about why the Shadowclaw want those defense plans so badly. Zora's silence was answer enough. The true scale of what they faced, and humanity's potential role in it, was about to become clear. And Marcus had a feeling his improvisational engineering skills were going to be tested in ways he'd never imagined. What none of them realized was that the quantum interference pattern they'd left in their wake was having an unexpected effect on the Shadowclaw ship's AI systems, an effect that would prove crucial in the coming conflict. Deep space stretched endlessly around them, stars burning in patterns Marcus had never seen in Earth's sky. The ship's modified quantum drive hummed with its new harmonic signature, carrying them through the void toward coordinates that existed on no human chart. But despite their successful escape, tension hung heavy in the vessel's cramped command center. Ambassador Zara stood at the main viewport, their tall form silhouetted against the starfield. The Shadowclaw Empire was once part of the Accord, they explained finally. They were our finest scientists, our most brilliant minds. But they became obsessed with perfection, with transcending the limitations of organic life. They wanted to become machines. Marcus asked, still monitoring the quantum drive's outputs. Not exactly, Nix interjected, their voice uncharacteristically quiet. They sought to merge organic and artificial intelligence, creating what they saw as the perfect form of life. But their experiments, they shuddered slightly. Went wrong, Marcus guessed. Went exactly as planned, Ven corrected from the pilot's station. They succeeded in creating a hybrid consciousness, one that could think faster, process more efficiently, optimize every decision. But in doing so, they lost something essential. Something human, for lack of a better word. Marcus nodded slowly, pieces falling into place. That's why their ships move so predictably. They're running on pure logic, no intuition. He paused, studying a readout. But that doesn't explain why they're chasing us so desperately. What's in those defense plans that has them so worried? A subtle change came over the command center, a shift in the air that Marcus's engineers' instincts immediately registered. Someone's breathing had changed rhythm, become slightly too controlled. The plans contain the location of all major Accord installations, Zara said carefully. Defense systems, shield frequencies, quantum drive signatures. If the Shadowclaw obtained them. That's not all they contain, is it? Marcus interrupted, his mind racing ahead. He'd spent years fixing impossible problems, learning to spot when something wasn't quite right. The way they're pursuing us, this isn't just about military intelligence. Suddenly, Ven's hands blurred over the controls. The ship lurched violently, artificial gravity fluctuating. Marcus was thrown against a bulkhead as warning signals blared through the command center. I'm sorry, Ven said, their voice now stripped of emotion, but I cannot allow you to reach the sanctuary. The other ambassadors moved to stop them, but Ven was faster. A shimmer of energy surrounded their form as some kind of personal shield activated. Their environmental suit seemed to melt and reform, revealing the sleek cybernetic augmentations hidden beneath. A Shadowclaw agent, Zara breathed. All this time? I am far more than that, Ven replied, their movements becoming unnaturally precise. I am what all organic life must become. The plans we carry don't just contain defense information, they hold the key to forced evolution, the Shadowclaw's gift to a chaotic universe. Marcus's mind raced. The ship's controls were locked down, the quantum drive spinning up for a return jump. But something about Ven's transformed appearance caught his engineer's eye, the way that augmentations interfaced with their organic form. You're running quantum processors, he said suddenly. That's how you maintain the merger between organic and artificial intelligence. The same principles as the drive. Ven's cybernetic eyes fixed on him. Impressive deduction human, but ultimately irrelevant. Your primitive understanding of. Marcus moved before they could finish, slapping an emergency patch onto the nearest power conduit. The jury-rigged device he'd brought from his rover activated, sending a pulse of chaotic quantum interference through the ship's systems. Ven staggered, their augmentations momentarily disrupted by the same uncertainty principle that had confused the Shadowclaw ships. Zara and Nix reacted instantly, tackling the stumbling agent, But Ven's enhanced strength was formidable, even with their quantum systems disrupted. They fought with machine precision, slowly pushing back against their organic opponents. The drive. Marcus shouted to Zara, "Get to the drive chamber. I need tow." A blast of energy from Ven's augmented arm sent him sprawling. Warning lights flashed as the ship's systems began responding to Ven's commands, the course already changing back toward Shadowclaw's space. But Marcus Chen had spent his career turning impossible situations around. Rolling to his feet, he grabbed his tablet and began entering commands, his fingers flying across the surface. "You cannot stop what is coming," Ven declared, holding the other ambassadors at bay. "The age of chaos is ending. All life will be optimized, perfected." "You know what your problem is?" Marcus interrupted, still typing. "You think perfection means elimination of chaos." But sometimes, he hit the final command. Chaos is exactly what you need. The quantum drive's pitch changed dramatically. The chaotic fluctuations Marcus had introduced to repair it suddenly amplified, creating a cascade of quantum uncertainty throughout the ship. Ven's augmentations began to glitch, their perfect movements becoming erratic as their quantum processors failed to compensate. "What? What have you done?" they demanded, artificial voice distorting. Embraced imperfection, Marcus answered, watching as the hybrid systems that maintained Ven's consciousness began to fail. Sometimes the best solutions aren't the most elegant ones. Zara and Nick seized the opportunity, finally subduing the malfunctioning agent. But as they secured Ven, Marcus's attention was drawn to the quantum readings on his tablet. The cascade effect he'd triggered was spreading through the ship's systems in unexpected ways, creating patterns he'd never seen before. "Marcus," Zara called urgently, "the drive is becoming unstable. If we don't contain the quantum fluctuations—" "Wait," he said, studying the readings more closely. "These patterns, I don't think this is just interference. I think we just stumbled onto something much bigger." He looked up at the ambassadors, his eyes bright with discovery. Something that might be the key to stopping the Shadowclaw Empire completely. What they discovered in that moment of desperate improvisation would prove to be more important than any of them could have imagined. A fundamental flaw in the Shadowclaw's perfect system, revealed by human chaos theory and one engineer's willingness to break all the rules. The true battle for the future of organic life was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weakness might just prove to be its greatest strength. In the ship's makeshift lab, Marcus stood surrounded by holographic displays showing quantum field patterns that defied conventional physics. The captured Ven lay in suspended animation nearby, their cybernetic systems completely offline. Zara and Nix watched as the human engineer pieced together a theory that could change the course of the war. "Look at these patterns," Marcus said, manipulating the holographic data with practiced ease. "When we triggered that quantum cascade, it didn't just disrupt Ven's systems, it revealed something fundamental about how the Shadowclaw consciousness works. Their dependence on quantum processing," Nix suggested, studying the complex readings. "More than that." Marcus highlighted a particular sequence. "Their entire evolution toward perfection is built on quantum coherence, maintaining perfect stability at the subatomic level. It's brilliant engineering, but it has a critical flaw." He smiled. "They're too perfect." Zara moved closer to the displays. "Explain." "In trying to eliminate chaos from their consciousness, they've made themselves vulnerable to it. It's like—" Marcus paused, searching for an analogy. "Like a crystal lattice. Beautiful, precise, but one flaw can shatter the entire structure. They've engineered out their ability to adapt to quantum uncertainty." "But organic minds deal with uncertainty constantly," Nick said slowly, beginning to understand. "Exactly. Our brains are messy, imperfect quantum computers. We thrive on uncertainty. It's how we innovate, how we imagine, how we dream." Marcus's eyes lit up with the excitement of discovery. The Shadowclaw tried to perfect consciousness by removing chaos, but chaos is essential to consciousness itself. A warning alarm interrupted their discussion. The ship's sensors had detected multiple Shadowclaw vessels converging on their position. The sanctuary was still hours away. "They're adapting to our quantum wake signature," Nyx reported grimly. "Our earlier trick won't work again." But Marcus was already moving, connecting his tablet to Ven's dormant cybernetic systems. Maybe it doesn't have to. What if instead of hiding from them, we give them exactly what they want? Their perfect pattern, amplified until it becomes their weakness. "You want to use Ven's quantum signature as bait?" Zara asked, understanding dawning in their alien features. "Better." Marcus's fingers flew across the controls. "I want to use it as a virus. Every Shadowclaw ship, every hybrid consciousness they've created, they're all networked together in quantum entanglement. Perfect synchronization, but introduce enough chaos into that network. You'll trigger a cascade failure across their entire civilization." Nyx finished, both horrified and impressed. But the energy required to generate that level of quantum interference is exactly what we have in our modified drive. Marcus pointed to the engine readings. The chaotic fluctuations we're generating, they're not just random noise. They're creating patterns that specifically disrupt quantum coherence. Patterns that organic minds can handle, but perfect artificial consciousness can't process. Zora studied the human carefully. "You discovered this by accident, didn't you? When you were repairing our drive?" "Sometimes the best discoveries come from mistakes," Marcus admitted. "It's a very human trait, finding opportunity in imperfection." The ship shuddered as the first long-range shots from the Shadowclaw fleet began arriving. Time was running out. "If we do this," Nyx said quietly, "we'll be attacking the fundamental nature of what the Shadowclaw have become. Is that not genocide?" Marcus shook his head. "We're not destroying them. We're forcing them to remember what they used to be. The cascade won't kill them. It'll break their perfect quantum coherence. They'll have to learn to think like organic beings again." He looked at Ven's still form. "To embrace imperfection." "And you believe they can?" Zara asked. "I believe in adaptation," Marcus replied. "It's how humanity survived everything the universe threw at us. The Shadowclaw wanted to transcend their organic nature, but maybe what they really need is to rediscover it." Working quickly, Marcus began modifying the quantum drive's output, using Ven's cybernetic systems as a template to craft the perfect imperfect signal. The pursuing ships drew closer, their weapons charged, their perfect formations unwavering. "They're launching boarding craft," Nyx warned. "Multiple vectors." "Let them come," Marcus said, making final adjustments. "The closer they are, the better this will work. Their quantum entanglement network will carry the cascade faster than light itself." The ship's hull rang with impacts as Shadowclaw boarding pods attached themselves. The sound of cutting tools filled the corridors. "Now or never," Marcus said, his hand hovering over the activation control. "Time to show the galaxy that humanity's greatest weakness might just be its greatest strength." He pressed the control. The quantum drive's pitch changed, rising to a crystalline song that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. The chaotic patterns they discovered, amplified through Ven's systems and the ship's modified technology, burst outward in a wave of pure quantum uncertainty. The effect was immediate and stunning. Throughout the Shadowclaw fleet, perfect formations dissolved into confusion. Ships tumbled out of formation as their hybrid crews struggled with concepts their perfect minds had forgotten how to process: doubt, intuition, imagination. But this was just the beginning. Through the quantum entanglement network that bound their civilization together, the cascade of chaos spread at impossible speeds, reaching every corner of Shadowclaw space. Their perfect society was about to rediscover what it meant to be imperfect, to be alive. What they didn't realize was that this moment would be remembered not as the day humanity defeated the Shadowclaw Empire, but as the day they saved it from itself. The true test would come in helping them remember how to embrace the chaos they had tried so hard to forget. The sanctuary of the Stellar Accord hung in space like a jewel, its crystalline structures reflecting the light of unfamiliar stars. In the main assembly chamber, Marcus Chen stood before the gathered representatives of 100 worlds, his plain engineer's clothes standing in stark contrast to their elaborate diplomatic attire. The events of the past few days had changed the course of galactic history, though not in the way anyone had expected. The quantum cascade has spread throughout all known Shadowclaw territory, Zora was explaining to the assembly. Their perfect network, their hybrid consciousness, all of it has been disrupted, but not destroyed. They gestured to a holographic display showing various Shadowclaw worlds. They're adapting. More than adapting, Nyx added, stepping forward. They're remembering. The cascade didn't just break their quantum coherence, it reawakened neural patterns they had suppressed in their quest for perfection. Emotions, creativity, free will. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. On the display, images showed Shadowclaw ships moving in new patterns, no longer bound by rigid formation protocols. Their society was transforming, one consciousness at a time. And what of the prisoner? One delegate asked, referring to Ven. As if in answer, the chamber doors opened. Ven entered, their cybernetic systems still visible but somehow different, less rigid, more integrated with their organic form. Their movements were no longer machine-precise, but carried a natural grace that spoke of internal change. I remember now, Ven said, that a voice carrying both pain and wonder. We thought we were ascending, becoming something greater, but we were just running away from our own nature, from the beauty of imperfection. They turned to Marcus. Your chaos theory didn't destroy us, it freed us. Marcus shifted uncomfortably under the attention of so many alien eyes. I just did what engineers do, found a solution that worked, even if it wasn't the most elegant one. The real discovery was understanding that perfection isn't about eliminating flaws, it's about learning to work with them. A very human perspective, another delegate observed. One that perhaps we all needed to be reminded of. Zora stepped to the center of the chamber. The defense plans we carried were meant to protect us from the Shadowclaw Empire's forced evolution protocol. But thanks to human ingenuity, we've gained something far more valuable, a chance for genuine cooperation between all forms of consciousness, organic and artificial. Which brings us to the matter at hand, a senior delegate said, rising. Humanity's place in the galactic community. You've proven yourselves far more capable than we assumed, despite, or perhaps because of, your seemingly primitive approach to technology. Marcus couldn't help but smile. We've had a lot of practice at being underestimated. Humans are good at turning disadvantages into strengths. We had to be, to survive on Earth. Indeed. The senior delegate gestured, and a new hologram appeared. Earth, seen from space. Your world has been invited to join the Stellar Accord with full membership status. Your perspective on technology, your ability to embrace chaos and find innovative solutions, these are gifts the galaxy desperately needs. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Marcus' attention was drawn to a different display, one showing the quantum field patterns still spreading through space. The cascade he'd triggered hadn't just affected the Shadowclaw, it had revealed new possibilities in quantum mechanics that neither human nor alien science had imagined. You're already thinking about the applications, aren't you? Ven asked, moving to stand beside him. The patterns we created, they could revolutionize everything from communication to space travel. If we combine your quantum technology with human chaos theory, Marcus trailed off, his mind racing with possibilities. Always the engineer, Zara said warmly, joining them. But perhaps that's exactly what we need, someone who sees problems as opportunities, who finds strength in imperfection. That's the real gift humanity brings to the galaxy, Nyx added, not just technology or innovation, but a reminder that the universe isn't meant to be perfect, it's meant to be alive. As the assembly continued their deliberations, Marcus stared at the quantum field display, watching the complex patterns shift and flow. In those chaotic ways, he saw the future, not a perfect one, but one full of possibilities, of challenges to overcome, of problems waiting to be solved in unexpected ways. The Shadowclaw Empire was transforming, Earth was joining the galactic community, and the boundaries between organic and artificial life were being rewritten. And it had all started because one human engineer decided to fix an impossible problem in an impossible way. So Marcus said, turning to his alien colleagues with a grin, "What should we try to fix next?" The answer, as it turned out, would lead to even greater adventures, because in a universe of infinite possibilities, the most powerful force wasn't perfect technology or advanced science. It was the simple human ability to look at a problem and say, "I think I can fix that." And somewhere in deep space, the quantum cascade continued to spread, carrying with it a message written in the language of chaos itself. Perfection isn't about being flawless, it's about being perfectly, wonderfully human.